They did whoop my ass in Uno multiple times today. That was fun.
Damn, are young people good at Uno?
I'm bad at Uno, so like
Eh.
Oh, in high school, I was very good at Uno.
That sounds like a thing
they've
that you would be good at in high school.
they've lost the art of the weird card games though. Like when I was a kid, we were playing spoons and spades and capitalism and like all kinds of weird shit. And now they're like Uno with no house rules. I'm like y'all doing
Hmm.
dry ass Uno? Okay.
This is the problem with the younger generation. They've lost their creative drive. This is why we have AI art now. This is why, you know, this
You-
is this is what
they just
happens
have
when
the
you just have to watch. They didn't have like educational television, Josh. They just had Marvel movies. So like they don't know how to create anything new. It's
they
really
didn't have
tragic.
our friend Martin.
Martin, who?
Our friend Martin.
Who is our friend Martin?
Oh, it might be my friend Martin. That is an educational TV cartoon that I think was only shown from the years of like 2008 to 2010 because Michael missed it. And it's about uh, uh
Every time you tell this, I like deeply think that it's just a implantation on your memory uniquely
This is a
until I
bit,
hear your
yeah.
friends say it too.
it's when this guy goes back in time with his white best friend to go meet young Martin Luther King Jr. and they have a great time hanging out with him. And they want to be like, Martin Luther King Jr., come to the future to find out all of the cool stuff that you did. And they come back to the future and it's all super racist because Martin Luther King Jr. single-handedly ended racism. And then at the very end, Aaron, at the very end, Martin Luther King Jr. goes back in time. And right before he does, the kid's like, no, something bad happens to you. And Martin Luther King Jr. accepts that he is going to die as a way to end racism in America,
Like Jesus.
just like Jesus.
See, I would have thought this was a bit until I searched Our Friend Martin, the 1999 American direct-to-video animated children's educational film about Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement. This is 100% a thing, and wow, starring Ed Asner, Angela Bassett, LeVar Burton, Danny Glover, Whoopi Goldberg, Samuel L. Jackson, James Earl Jones, John Travolta, and Oprah Winfrey. Jaleel White was in. They got fucking Urkel in here. What the fuck?
Oh my god. Yeah, Richard Kind?
Their school is segregated and instead named after Robert E. Lee. Man, good thing there's no schools named after Robert E. Lee in the future.
They had Oprah playing Coretta's King.
Yeah, wow.
Of course they did. This was the 90s. Like, this was colorblind
Yeah, right. This
liberalism.
is 100% right. This is once Joe Obama gets elected, we've finished racism forever.
They caught
God.
that one early, though. That was in 99.
Yeah, no. But now, with the election of Joseph Gordon Biden, we truly have ended racism in the United States. So it's all good.
I do just want to let you guys know that I think I've seen this movie like 5 times. Every single Black History Month. They were like, here he comes, our friend Martin. And we were like, yay, racism's over. This is the same school when I think so. This story probably happened right before they put on Our Friend Martin, where they were like, yeah, back in the day, people were really mean and they didn't let people that weren't white come to like certain schools. So none of you guys would be in this school except for Josh. And all.
Check your fucking privilege, Josh.
One head snapped around and kind of looked at me, and I was like, I don't know what I'm feeling right now, but I think this could have made me a Republican.
We call it white guilt.
Yeah, no. This is like so many current evil people's origin story.
They played Our Friend Martin afterwards, and I was like, oh, cool, it's over.
Whew, that was close. I almost had to deal with the repercussions of my race in a socioeconomic context. Whew. Thank Christ for this VHS.
I love that story, man. When I realized what I got, like, I didn't realize I was fucked up until I got to my 20s. And I was like, this is the best story. This is the best thing that happened to me.
It was nominated for an Emmy Award for Outstanding Animated Program.
It's animated quite well from my memory. I wish we could watch this for Bible Boys.
I was gonna say this is a potential Bible Boys pick.
Because I need you guys, because there's a Hispanic character, and they make her, and when they go to the racist future, they have her cleaning the school.
Great.
And like she doesn't know English, but like in the non-racist present, she is like the smartest kid in class.
Okay, so we have to watch this for Bible Boys, and our religious bend is that it's basically the story
right?
of Jesus.
Yeah, right. This is a Christ analogy. Yeah, well, great, good. This is gonna be a wild cold open, I guess. Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
This week, we continue with the History Channel Bible Miniseries, Episode 4, The Kingdom. Before we explore the most homoerotic chapters of the Old Testament, please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at @TheBibleBoys.
Happy Pride!
Happy Pride, everyone! Yeah,
Happy Pride! This is it, boys. This is the gay story.
Is there a gayer besides the Jesus Judas crossover? Is there a gayer part of the Bible than the Jonathan David love story?
I mean, unless you're into Thor with Jonah.
Ruth and Naomi? Just gal pals being gals, galling around.
It's a good take.
They were roommates.
That's fair. Okay. All right. I don't know the Old Testament because I was raised Catholic, so that was a legitimate question.
So
I'm an Old Testament guy, so right. Let me fill in those gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I love when God's a little scamp. So this is a perfect little crossover here. Aaron, did you know a lot of the story of Saul prior to this episode?
No. I didn't know shit about Saul. I mean, like, I had probably studied Saul in like my Old Testament history class and then immediately forgot everything. But like all of this was basically new information. Like my familiarity with this whole episode was David and Goliath. And then I was like, oh yeah, Josh and Michael always talk about how gay David and Samuel are, or not gay Samuel, Jonathan are for each other. And that was it. So this was like kind of nice. I was like, oh, that's what's in there, huh?
That's some green sibling war.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say I don't know why me and Michael really attached ourselves to the David and Jonathan story. I do. I understand it because when I was a kid, I didn't understand David, but he is a bicon. He is out here trying to fuck all of Saul's children one at a time. He's going through the list, and I honor and respect it.
It is actually wild to have a love triangle involving siblings, just like right there in the open.
But they're both cool with it. It's weird. But I don't blame you, Aaron, for not knowing about God's second favorite Saul, because like this storyline really is about God going, I like this guy. Never mind. Vibes are bad. Hate him. Don't like him. Bad.
It's really a lot. Like, I mean, I don't know if either of you wants to take up the lead on this. I can kind of guide us if that is preferable. But like, you know, it immediately starts with them being like, Saul was made king, and then God said, fuck this man.
That's literally what happens though, is like in the Bible, the people are like, yeah, so we've had these judges and they're like doing a fine job and we're like pretty righteous and everything's going fine, but we want a king. We want a king. We want a king. And God's like, you sure? And they're like, yeah, we want a king. And God goes, okay, here's your king. I like him for now. But then he doesn't. Surprise.
It's literally we have king at home and Saul walks out.
So what happens, right? So to continue from the last episode, right? Samuel, who is the prophet, anoints Saul, gets oil all in his mouth.
Which we find out is not just because he hates Saul.
No, he does it to David too, which is really
drowns that drink.
Samuel's just nasty. But like, yeah. So Saul is about to like make an attack on one of the various peoples that God hates in the Old Testament, and he's been waiting for 7 days, and he's like, "All right, fine. I need to make a sacrifice," but Samuel has just been fucking chilling for 7 days, so I'm gonna make the sacrifice myself. And literally, like the lamb's not even dead yet. The lamb is still like has the knife like in its throat when Samuel shows up. He's like, "Hey, you think your God values your sacrifice more than mine? What are you doing, bro?" And Saul's like, "It's been a week. What are you?" I'm firmly on Saul's side here. Samuel would have been 20 minutes late, and I've been like, "All right, nope, we're doing this. Bye."
Aaron was the guy in class where if when the teacher was 14 minutes late, he stood up and went, "With the teacher's more than 15 minutes late, we get to all leave."
I wish that was true. I definitely would have been the person who just stayed in class. I was like, I'm just gonna play on my laptop.
But I'm also on Saul's side because Samuel immediately after seeing this was like, cool. Kill everything. All of them.
The follow-up is quite bad. He's like, okay, all right, you want God to like you? Here's what God says to do. Genocide. Which, like, to be fair, that is what God says to do. But this time it feels a little bit spiteful. It feels a little bit self-interested, Samuel, if I'm going to be honest.
And I really wish that we could get some... This is not anywhere what this story wants to do, and I don't think we'd ever get this story. But there would be something interesting about, Saul questioning whether or not Samuel is looking out for Samuel's best interests or actually has a better connection with God. Because, like kind of how, like in European history where the Pope was constantly like, whoa, God said I'm in charge of kings. And all of the kings were like, did he write a letter?
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that's not what the goal of this is to do. I would just like it. Also, the fight sequences, not great in this one. Didn't love them.
They're boring.
Yeah, because this is a love story.
That's true. That's not what this is about. This is a romance, fundamentally. I do like that at the end when Samuel's like, "Oh, come on, Saul, you took goats and cattle and you left a man alive." He like pulls like a fucking shiv out of his belt and kills the man himself. And it's like, "Hey, dude."
This is not what happens, but in my brain, I remember it like the Assassin's Creed knife.
Yes.
Just coming.
The hidden blade.
The worst part is Saul and everyone else is like, whoa! I know the Geneva Convention's not invented yet, but Jesus Christ.
But maybe it should be.
Yeah. Basically what happens, after that, Samuel's like, "Hey, no, God has torn your power from you, Saul. He wants a man after his own heart, parentheses, willing to kill everyone, every living thing." So he goes off to go find a new king. And at first, Saul's all pissed off, and he's like, "You know what? Hey, Jonathan, this is all horseshit. This is so annoying. That old man sucks." And then he's like, "I should ask Samuel's forgiveness." It's like, man, come on, have some respect.
And then he has old man nightmares.
Yeah.
Which throughout this entire thing, age is very weird because Saul is like old just the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And David is a child and then middle-aged man the entire time.
He does the, like, how in The Lion King, Simba starts out as like, an adolescent, like a cub, and then he gets to like teen lion where he has like half of a mane and he becomes a full lion. And like, it's like, okay, that's like, pretty good progression. Like here it's like David goes from, 14 years old to 45. Like there's no middle step.
I also think that it's pretty important for us to tell our audience this bit of information. It's a little late in the show, but this is actually our first sponsored podcast. Thank you for Total War Pharaohs for sponsoring this because we get some awesome and by awesome I mean terrible fight sequences between some Israelite armies versus some Canaanite armies and some Philistines, and I just can't wait for this fun game to come out. You can pre-order with our link. I think this is technically an FTC violation.
I
so
think
that's
it
fun.
definitely is, but don't report us to the FTC. When Total War Pharaoh comes out, that'll probably be a whole podcast, but we can't get into that now. But yeah,
But
no. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to bounce on. We talked about this before, but Samuel immediately goes to find David, drenches that boy in oil, and then goes, and then and David becomes a servant to Saul, and then you have a scene of David looking over a sleeping Saul, and he looks at the crown. And this is where I'm Team Saul for the rest of this fucking show because of this fucking scene, and I'll get into that more as it goes on. But then we get very quickly into the David and Goliath story, which I think most people are really, that's mostly what they know about David.
Right.
That's what they're here for.
Right, exactly. You got to play the hits.
I've got a theory about this. We don't have to talk about the David and Goliath story too much, but my theory for this version is that this Goliath had no idea how to fight. And that this was just a morale tactic. So they just found their biggest guy, sent him out there and had him scream a whole bunch. And then when they sent out any soldier, the entire army was like, hopefully they don't call our bluff. And then he died and they're like, fuck our bluff.
We gotta go. Yeah. So fun fact about the person who plays Goliath. Goliath, the actor, the person who plays Goliath, right, is Conan Stevens. Who's been in things like The Hobbit, the movies, and Game of Thrones as the Mountain.
Wow.
So like he's been in some pretty interesting stuff. But what's really funny is that his voice is not Conan Stevens' voice. His voice is Andrew Scarborough, who was in our last episode, who played Joshua. Wild choice. I have no idea why they made the voice different.
This is like the Darth Vader thing where they got like halfway through filming and we're like, we gotta change it.
This isn't working.
He has maybe has a posh British accent. They're like, that can't be Goliath.
Yeah, no, it's really weird and funny, and I love it.
So just out of curiosity, boys, how tall do you think Goliath is in the Bible?
Doesn't it say?
It does, but there's some disagreement because there's two different numbers given, and they're wildly different. So just give me when you picture Goliath, how big you think this boy is.
Okay.
Well, Aaron took his glasses off.
Well, because, if you're giving me two numbers, my first instinct was to say 8 feet. But we also recently did the Nephilim conspiracy, so I think the second number is 20 feet.
So 8 to 20, Michael.
So my guess is like 9, but I could also see it being like 10, 11. I think the range is small, but I think they're larger than life ranges though.
Okay, so the number that is quoted by like historians and from like a Greek manuscript, 6'9".
Oh.
Which is big, but like he would not, I don't think he'd be in the NBA. Like, don't get me wrong, that is a foot larger than me. But when I think Goliath, I don't think a foot taller than me. I think like 5 feet taller than me. The other number given from a Aramaic, or Hebrew text is 9 feet 9 inches. So we know he's 9 inches tall. We just don't know how many feet.
Let me see. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like that makes sense though, right? Because just based on like nutrition standards of back then, I feel like 6'9" is like considerably gigantic, right? Like 2,000 years ago, we would have been like average to like slightly taller. The three hosts of this podcast.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
we'd be crushing it out there.
Yeah, no, we could have hooped 2,000 years ago.
The Bible boys go back in time to beat the disciples at a game of basketball.
I'm just saying, like, the first pope, his bones probably weren't that strong.
Every time you talk about bones, I think of the 30 Rock joke about the bird bones. My bones.
Aaron does talk about bones a lot.
I just like to think about how much milk I drank in vain over my life. I do want to talk about Goliath's sword. So, once David kills Goliath with the sling, obviously, he cuts his head off with the sword. His sickle sword is really cool, but it does look like a kind of weapon you would take if you're going to, like, a cosplay convention. Like, it looks like it's made of foam. It's enormous, and it's really cool, but it's, like, 6 feet long.
It is cool that it gave him magic warrior powers, because immediately after this, he's dual-wielding swords and just slicing through Philistines.
Yeah, no, we get the transition, and now he's just like, the fucking blood rage comes over him, and he, like, there is just this one bit where he's just in his 300 mode and, like, doing slow-mo, like, stabs and slashes. And this is where they're like, Saul has killed thousands, but David has killed tens of thousands. I believe that's in the Bible. I think that's true.
Yes.
Okay. Wild text. The Bible's a weird book, y'all.
It is, and like it just makes me think that like the people, like the everyday people, are just a wild group. Like they're chanting, "We want a king." They're chanting about how many people they killed. Like this makes our presidential elections look boring.
I mean,
Let's be gentle. The British go through this every year, where they chant the exact same things. But this entire time, everyone is like, "Oh, Saul's losing it," because he's like, "David's gonna take my crown. He's going to become the next king. He's gonna take it over from my sweet boy Jonathan." And I think he's right. I think David is out here trying to get in the royal family so he can take over.
I don't think David had that forethought. I think this was a like a young boy who was just like, yeah, I can sling this guy. Yeah, I'm in love with two of the king's children. Like, I feel like he was in the wrong place at the right time, basically.
I think we need to defend ourselves slightly for those of you that have not watched it. Though this podcast does love to say these people are fucking when they're not really fucking, there is a couch scene where David, Jonathan, and oh my god, I feel sexist. What's her name?
wow.
Was that Michael?
Michael, that's her name.
It is actually, it's like Michal.
Oh yeah. They're all hanging out at the couch. David's talking about how he killed a guy when he jumped off a horse, and they are just eating like fruit and lounging and hanging out with one another. And then Saul comes in. He's like, "David, I heard you killed thousands." And Jonathan just fucking goes, "Tens of thousands, Dad." And Saul shoots him a look like, I know you are fucking, but jeez, man, side with me once. And then he's like, "Oh, you can sleep with my daughter," and you can definitely see Jonathan like slaps on the back. He's like, "Now we're brothers."
That's a little much. Like, hey, buddy.
Ah!
That's
Don't say that. Oh, and she's loving it too. She's looking at it and like giving the big thumbs up. And then Saul's like, if you kill, what is it, 100?
It's 100.
100 Philistines?
Yes.
If you kill 100 Philistines, then you can sleep with my daughter.
I mean, he doesn't say sleep with. He says, marry, to be clear.
The implications.
I mean, yes, obviously. But, like, he's not just like, I want you to bone my daughter. This is a Christian program.
For David to just like look at the camera and be like, "I'm already sleeping with your son, though." Like
2 for 1, I guess. Waka waka.
I mean,
it would have been great if Saul was like, "You can, marry one of my children." Michael. I feel weird saying Michael. And then David's like, "Oh."
Snaps fingers.
Darn it. And maybe that again, Saul's like, hey, I'm looking out for the future of my dynasty. This is like a Philip the Great situation where Philip the Great's looking at Alexander the Great like, hey, fuck a woman once, please. Just one time, I'm begging you. And Alexander the Great's like, would rather die. I'm gonna go
And did.
invade India.
And did.
Alexander the Great doesn't get enough representation at Pride. Are you ever so allergic to having sex with a woman that you end civilization?
Just smashing one of the like greatest potential dynasties of all time because like just not into him, and I respect that.
I mean, listen, you gotta give it up.
That's gay rights.
We can't turn this into an Alexander the Great podcast because I just want to talk about how Philip the Great fucked so many men. He was also quite queer.
Let's talk about 200 trophies.
So when David comes back, he's got a sack of what body part you guys think's in there?
I assume ears, right?
I think that makes the most sense, but it's so the fact that it doesn't say it makes it worse.
Yeah.
Like
I would prefer them to just say it.
Saul just like looks in the sack and then makes a gross face, and it's like,
is there a fly noise? I swear there's a fly noise.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a fly noise. It's very silly.
And Saul's like, you kill 100? David's like, I killed 200. God was with me.
Mm-hmm. And Saul's like, wow, cool.
And then everyone's happy except for Saul, and he just fucking chucks a spear at the wall. And David goes, ooh, I might want to leave.
Yeah, it's good. It's great.
Yeah, and like, I think that it's important in the Bible. It's Jonathan that says, "Hey, Dad wants to kill you," to David before David leaves.
See, that's different because in this they don't have Jonathan do that at all. They have Michael do it.
Yeah.
And that's I like Michael here because she's like, Saul's like, hey, I want to see your husband. And she's like, oh, David can't come to the door right now. He's feeling ill. He's got leprosy. Is that believable? And Saul's like, you're the worst liar I've ever seen in my life. Get out of my way. And David's obviously not there. It's just a really funny bit.
And while I was watching this, I was like, man, it's kind of weird out of nowhere they gave David like a little buddy. And I'm going to have that continued thought until the very end of this. I'm like, weird, they give him that little buddy's still sticking around.
Yeah, wow. David's right-hand man Uriah. Man, I sure hope it doesn't seem like he's plot critical. Oh well. And you know what?
Anyway.
That's just writing, baby. Sometimes you got to set up a character so you can kill him in battle later on and sleep with his wife.
You can fuck him and kill him.
Right.
I find this middle part to be a little bit boring.
It's very boring.
Because it's mostly Saul being like, fuck.
Man, I wish I hadn't sent away my superhuman, my super soldier. I'm getting owned out here.
Yeah, and then David cave living. At one point, Saul is peeing, and
this is wild.
David plays tag with him and grabs his flag from his flag football game, and then says, I could have killed you, but I took the little flag off of you.
I mean, that's definitely a thing that happens in the Bible, right? Where David cuts a bit of the cloak and is like, hey, I could have got you,
I believe so,
but I didn't.
And then Saul's like, darn it. And then Jonathan is able to convince Saul of like, hey, maybe we stop looking for my ex-boyfriend because you ruined that for me, Dad. And we focus on killing the army that is approaching us. And Saul's like, you know what? You're right. It's time I turn this around and really, focus on I'm dead. I died in battle and you died in battle. And there's this fun moment where Saul looks back and he's like, is this, I can't remember the line, but he's saying like, does everyone have to be punished for my mistake? And in the Old Testament, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you just see like dead bodies of the Israelite soldiers. um, due to their bad tactics that Aaron and I will go into in our side podcast called War Horny, where we just talk about tactics in movies. But it's very sad. He sends someone away with his crown, I believe. And that rider just knows what's up immediately, goes to find David, and David's like, Saul died, darn. But Jonathan's good though, right? And then he gets like actually sad, and I'm like,
the only moment of acting in this entire bit where he's like actually very torn up about it. It's good.
But don't worry, his BFF is there, and just tell him like, hey, this is a great time for a coup.
So yeah, I kind of want to. They're attacking Jerusalem here. Is Jerusalem not the capital of Israel at this time?
That I didn't understand either, because like David's like, this is our home, this is gonna be like our capital, and I don't fully know how that worked,
because they don't make it clear whether or not they're killing Israelite like loyalists, I guess, or not. But it seems like it could go either way if they're like either taking a Philistine village or not.
I think it was a Canaanite village at the time.
Okay.
Man, they just said fuck the the Israelite territory. That's just goners.
Listen, sometimes in Total War, you have a bad battle and you're like, shit, I gotta take some new territory. So you declare war on a third faction that's weaker and you just kind of own them and you deal with the political ramifications of that later.
We gotta save that for War Horny. But to go into more military tactics, we've got a secret espionage mission as the David and his little band of guys are going to crawl in the sewers. That way they can attack these mystery guards of Jerusalem, and then they take it over, and the populace love them for it. Absolutely. Super love them.
I know that when a hostile force enters my home city, I am super thrilled about it. I'm like, yeah, no, this is great. I love to be occupied by a new government.
When Belgium inevitably takes over Northern Virginia, I will be one of the first out there welcoming our new leaders. And then we get another scene where the dots finally fucking connect for my very dumb brain, where David goes up to, what's this individual's name?
Uriah.
And he was like, Uriah, your wife's hot. Holy shit, man, your wife's hot. Can I dance with her for a second? And Uriah's like, yeah, we're buddies. You're getting really into this dance. Hey, King David. Cut that out, maybe? Hey, don't be weird.
Yeah, David immediately becomes a creep as soon as he becomes king. It's very funny.
And then it's just the plot of Hallelujah.
Right.
But what did you guys think of that? What did you think of like making Uriah an actual character?
I feel like you had to, right? Like, otherwise there's no stakes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's shitty. It's shitty what David does, no matter how you spin it, but I think it makes better TV if you are like, look at him betraying this confidant over this, like, hot lady.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're 100% right, Michael. It's just like, yeah, we need to set this up so it'll pay off later and it'll be, you'll feel something about it.
But then we get the plot. He watches a lady bathe and then goes like, I'm gonna sleep with her, and she's like, I've got a husband, and he's like, but I'm a king and I hate all of that. There's something even in the Bible where the weird shit David does to try to weasel his way out of this, where he has Uriah come back from the battlefield and then is like, hey, go fuck your wife, man, right? Go fuck your wife.
Yeah, no. And I mean, like, we don't talk about this on Bible Boys a lot, but like there are a bunch of weird strictures about like what was considered to be, taboo or impure. And one of the things that like, I don't know if it's in like Numbers or one of those like early books of the Old Testament, but basically it's like if you have been out, like if you've been at war, like killed someone, you're not supposed to, you have to like undergo a ritual purification. And like one of those prohibitions is sleeping with your wife, which is why Uriah's like weirded out by. I mean, one, it's weird if your boss is like, "Hey, buddy, why don't you come and fuck your wife? Just I know you've been off working, but maybe you should come home and fuck your wife just for no reason. Just I'm personally invested in this."
Just once. Never hurt anybody to do it just once.
Right.
But
Extremely normal.
But Aaron, like what you're saying, like it clears up a lot of the weirdness in this scene, because when you remove the like ritualistic aspects of like purification and like this is a like societal norm that we don't break, it looks like Uriah just does not want to fuck his wife. Like it really looks like he's like, "Oh, my wife, yeah, I love sleeping with her. Like when I put my penis where it normally goes when you sleep with women, it's great. I love it. I do it all the time, but just not right now. Man, I miss my boys back on the war front. I miss my boys so bad."
That's why this is the gayest episode.
Yeah, no, it's truly for the boys.
They were like, it's not enough to give us David and Jonathan. We're gonna make Uriah gay too.
Sure.
But then David immediately goes to like, I'm just gonna kill him. I don't want to deal with this anymore. This is kind of annoying. What if I just kill one of my closest commanders?
This is very Crusader Kings to me. This is a movie you do in Crusader Kings, and you're just like, I have like this guy who's really important in my court, but like I don't have a good enough spy master to assassinate him. What if I just send him into battle and make sure that he's on the front lines and don't put any men-at-arms in his army, and just kind of hope for the best?
Literally done this in Crusader Kings, or put them in a little ship so they get scurvy.
You're just gonna hang out here with no oranges. Good luck.
So David clicks the little soldier guy to go stand in the middle of the ocean by himself. What do you think was going through that commander's head when he had to read in front of Uriah, "Hey, kill Uriah, but don't tell anyone"? And
Okay.
then to get all of the soldiers on board with it too?
Which United States president do you all think is most likely to do this?
Oh, I'm trying to avoid the obvious answer.
The most recent previous one is a pretty obvious one. That's too easy.
I've got a real answer.
What is it?
FDR.
Really?
Oh.
Here's the thing. FDR was a fucking monster. I think for sure he would be like, "Hey, I get 10 more votes in Illinois if I fucking murk this guy real good, get it done."
That's
See,
pretty
my
good.
guess was going to be JFK, because I can imagine his sexcapades getting him in enough trouble that he's like, "Oh shit,
Damn,
I need
that's
to
the
kill
real answer.
someone."
Oh, that's really good. I'm trying to think of another president with 3 initials. Richard Nixon is probably obviously also a really easy one. That dude would kill anyone for any reason whatsoever.
That dude would kill someone to win an easily winnable election.
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
barely win it.
Oh, okay. I think it's very funny to imagine like the equivalent of like the president being like, "Hey, soldier, fuck this guy in particular. Anyway, those are your orders."
But even as a kid, I was like, the idea of running up with all my soldier pals and then all of them just going psych and running away, they've got to really hate this motherfucker. I bet it's
Maybe the worst way to die.
It's pretty bad.
I think it's because he's causing drama, because he is not like being there for the romantic emotional needs that these guys need, and he's broken hearts, and he is just not, he's burning bridges and not sleeping with his wife.
Right.
And because of all of that, that's what gets Uriah.
Do you think Uriah is like the guy in the office that like microwaves fish, right? Like, do you think it's that sort of thing where it's like, he's just annoying enough that you would leave him to die in the middle of battle, but like you wouldn't do it yourself? I've thankfully not worked in an office where I would do that to someone, but I can imagine in 20 years me doing that to someone.
That I think you nailed it. I'm trying to think of what the equivalent of, the ancient Middle East would be of microwaving eggs.
Anyway, yeah, at this point, Uriah is dead, and then a random prophet shows up and says, "God's gonna kill your son." Who is this prophet?
Oh, what's his name?
It's
Isn't
not
it Nathan?
Nathan. Is it Nathan?
I think it's supposed to be Nathan.
Okay. I don't know very many Old Testament prophets, so I'm glad I got that one. Yeah, anyway, he's just like, "Hey, you did a bad thing, but so God's going to kill your son." And then he does. God does kill their son. But then also Nathan's like, you are going to have another son, so it's totally fine. Don't worry about it.
It evens out.
This one's going to be super important. So
And then we get like where David's like, this is where we're going to keep the Ark of the Covenant. And I have just recently got done watching the original trilogy for the Indiana Jones movies with Bailey. And so when the Ark of the Covenant popped up, I was like a Marvel fan when, a random D-list hero pops up on the screen. I'm like, I know that
you're
one!
doing the Wojak, yeah.
Yeah.
it's so funny because in my art humanities class, though, we just did Michelangelo today. So I was like, oh, cool. I'm just like in a David mood today.
It is the month for him.
So fun fact, the statue of David's probably my favorite piece of art, just because I think it's so impressive. For me and my sister's graduation, my parents took us to Europe after I graduated high school, and I saw the statue of David, and it's just genuinely like a really, really impressive piece of art. It's fucking enormous, and it's carved from a single marble block, and it took Michelangelo like 18 months or some shit. And I was just so impressed at age 18 that was a thing that just one dude just worked really hard at and did. So I got a picture of the statue of David, and I kept it in my college dorm for many years.
The slab of marble was called the Giant because it was so assuming and powerful. So there's a lot of there if you want to talk about that piece.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is like a very tame episode. Like, besides the fact that, the story of David's like iconic and, Jonathan is very fun. Not a whole lot happens in this one compared to the last one, which is like two whole different arcs of people.
I stand by. They are speedrunning the Old Testament a little too much, and they ended up missing a lot of the beats that I would have really wished they would have hit. And yeah, they're skipping over my favorite stories.
When you split the Bible in half through the Old Testament and the New Testament, just mathematically, that's not going to work. Like, you're going to miss some big shit in there.
I mean, the Old Testament is like significantly larger, right?
There's their defense. Most people, I think, if they had to guess what was in the Bible, they'd be like Adam and Eve, and then Moses, and then I think there was a flood somewhere in there. There's a big fish. David killed Goliath, then Jesus, and like, it's only really us dweebs out here where like you're not doing the Jonah story justice.
Listen, I want the 3-episode, 90-minute each, like, Maccabees HBO drama. I think that would be sick.
Give me the story of Esther. Ehive, rise up. We need our girl.
Here's the thing, Michael. I've seen advertisements for an Esther film on Roku. That exists, and we should watch it sometime.
We should watch it.
Every time I think we're out of shit, the Lord provides.
Truly. I will say, I would say we should probably finish up episode 5 of this and then be done with the History Channel miniseries for a while, because the next 5 episodes are just New Testament, which I assume is just Jesus.
Yeah, I think we need a little bit of a break.
Right. I
cannot wait to go over Revelations, which I'm hoping is in this shit, but I doubt it.
It is not.
God, are you kidding me?
They spend the rest of the series on Jesus, episodes 6 through 10. It's all like, you remember Jesus? Yeah, this guy. You love him.
Oh, I feel anger deep within me.
It's boring, yeah.
He's kind of the main character of the Bible, to be fair.
Jesus is such a Mary Sue.
I hate when the Bible went woke.
All right. Shall we rate this episode?
I'm gonna go. I don't have any good things I want to rate this immediately off the top of my head. I'm gonna give this one 1. I think Saul was right.
right. I'm going to give this a Pope 101 Hormicidas.
Always want to ask you why.
I do too, but we're not allowed. We're not allowed to, Michael.
You cannot. That's in my contract.
I'm gonna give this one a bucket full of gay subtext because this is the gayest episode we've watched in a while, and happy Pride.
Happy Pride,
Fuck,
everyone.
I should have said Better Call Saul.
Well,
Should have, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, this just
sucks. When we are not trying to think of better ways to say our ranking of episodes, where can we be found on the internet?
I'm at Green History on Twitter, and that's all I'm doing on that.
I'm at that green light on Twitter, and I'm waiting for my Blue Sky approval. So if one of you has an invite, send it over because I want to be off Twitter. Thank you.
I'm at AiredSXL on Twitter and at aavoight.com, where you can read about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing. I do another podcast with my friend Layla. That's at Mortified Pod. We just talked about Sharon J. Shao's middle grade book, Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor, which is a little bit like an educational book for like Chinese diasporan kids, but also it's like Yu-Gi-Oh, but for like Chinese people, ancient Chinese history. So it's interesting. It doesn't really work for us because it was a middle grade book, but you know, we had some stuff to say about it. It was fun. And we did talk about U.S. presidents a bit at the end of that. So if you want to hear my hot takes on William Henry Harrison, check that out. But yeah, if you all are sad that our time with the History Channel Bible miniseries is drawing to a close, just remember that it is okay to cry because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.